right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the part-time adventurer, and Mark, the resident Jedi.
Hello there. In case you've been living under a rock since 1988, at some point you have played a wonderful, wonderful puzzle game that has recently, not so recently, but kind of recently, been made into a movie. And we're just, connecting the lines and trying to level up, talking about Tetris.
So the obvious video game that should not be turned into a movie was turned into a movie. I found out about this just from I think it was an ad on Ted Lasso. So the resident Jedi finally got me to watch Ted Lasso. I did a free 7-day trial of Apple TV, and then that lapsed because I started to like the TV show, and then I saw an ad for Tetris the movie, and so I was like, all right, I'm game for that. I don't know how the fuck this is going to be turned into a movie, but the trailer got me, so that's what we decided to do, is decide to go on this for Tetris. But Mark, what did you think about when I said, hey, let's review Tetris for the podcast?
I've been looking for an excuse to watch it. I too saw it during ads for Ted Lasso, which Dan has done a full mea culpa on and enjoys. Just for those listeners that have heard him deny and obfuscate from watching Ted Lasso for all of these months and years.
Has it been out years, or is it just like 8 years?
No, it came out in 2020, buddy. Came out in 2020.
2020 is about the same amount of time. COVID doesn't count. So like all those 3 years are like 1 year essentially. So it's all the same.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, okay, it seems like we're going to get a lot of explanations of how business deals were made. Movies. They're gaining popularity. Air, this, The Big Short. There's just going to be a lot of The Wolf of Wall Street. It's just like, we're going to talk about interesting business deals.
The very interesting point that you made is Air. So we did a previous episode about Air, which was around the Michael Jordan shoe. To be clear, about the Michael Jordan shoe, not about Michael Jordan. So I was going into this movie thinking like, well, this is about the game Tetris, but it's more about the business deal of the game Tetris. So I immediately was thinking this is probably going to be more exciting because video game movies kind of suck. And I can't even remember like what's the last good video game movie that we've watched?
The Super Mario Brothers movie?
Okay.
Don't even.
That's recent. No. That's recent though.
That was the last good video game movie we watched.
What is before Super Mario though? Video games historically have a bad rap for movies.
Mortal Kombat
was good for the time, and it was a blockbuster. But what else? There's nothing. Like a lot of video game movies kind of suck. Hey,
don't act like you don't like the Raul Julia JVD classic Street Fighter.
I don't. I hate that movie. Just
because it's so good.
I haven't watched it in years because
good.
I rented it from, once again, Movie Mania in Tinley Park, RIP. And I watched it and I was like, good God, this movie fucking sucks. Like Van Damme's supposed to come out with the bangers, and he just came out with the limp dick movie that was just awful, with almost cartoonish, if you will, and not in the good way.
Hey, did you ever watch the series JCVD? Just side note.
It's awesome.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's probably I might say that it's better than Arnold Schwarzenegger's new series, Fubar, but that's pretty entertaining as well. But the
I'm not engaged in Fubar, but JCVD, wow,
pretty hilarious.
So good.
Yeah,
so good.
But before we go into the movie, what was your first exposure to the video game Tetris?
Christmas 1989, 1990, whenever Game Boy launched, dude.
You lucky bastard.
Oh no, I've been having one of these for a very long time. All
right, so I'm gonna cue the sad music right here. And for those who've listened to previous episodes, I didn't have that many toys as a kid, and I certainly as shit did not have a Game Boy. So that is my first exposure to Tetris was, if you remember the, what do you call it, a department store or Venture? Do you remember Venture?
Oh, I remember Venture service merchandise. All of them had the big World of Nintendo display with the Game Boy like bolted into it.
Yes. So that Game Boy at Venture bolted into it. My mom would always go to Venture for like what seemed to be at least an hour. And I just basically hogs the Game Boy. And of course, the game that was in there was Tetris. And I didn't know the point of the game. I didn't even make lines. I just kept on, hitting the buttons and moving those little blocks down, not making a single fucking line and dying every single time, thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to get it next time. And so it's just kind of funny looking back at it now. I'm sure that there's people that were like looking over my shoulder, like, dude, just make the line. What the fuck are you doing? But nah.
Were they looking over your shoulder or were they just trying to punch you to get you out of the way?
No. These are like full grown adults probably looking for themselves, because Tetris, not only appealing for kids, appealing for adults.
Oh, yeah.
Probably for good reason, because kids don't know the concept of putting lines together in Tetris.
Oh, you learned the concept. When they disappear, you learned. You learned.
Well, you have to make them disappear, which I never made them disappear at that age. I didn't understand the game. I was like, oh, cool, squares, rectangles, some weird puzzle pieces. Let's just make a puzzle together. And yeah, no, never figured it out until much, much later. There is a way to play Tetris. And sure as shit, right after the movie, I went to that website and played Tetris for like a good 45 minutes. And yes, I was able to make lines. And it was pretty fun right after the movie. And so I'm sitting in bed like for 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was, after midnight, just playing Tetris.
There's so many different versions. Like there are parts of this that I think they skipped out some pieces on, and we'll get there. But like, I had the Game Boy version, but I didn't have the official Nintendo version. I had the Tengen Nintendo version.
Yeah.
Like the black slidey cartridge, like kind of bootleg, but kind of not part of the original Nintendo releases. But you didn't get the same music. The music from the Game Boy Tetris was and is my joint.
Same as the Nintendo one, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, the music was so cool. And I love the fact, we'll go right into this movie about the music. I love the fact that they incorporated so many Tetris-like things into the movie as the movie unfolded, like the kind of cartoon blockish animation of the buildings as they were going to different scenes. I thought that was great. And then the subtle, little bits of music that they were playing throughout, which was really reminiscent, nostalgic for me. And I was digging it. I was having a good time watching this movie. But what about you? What did you think about the music?
I was digging it. They played an 8-bit, they did 8-bit chase music in it, which was awesome. But yeah, I thought the graphics in it and stuff was cool. I was into it right away.
I have a strong opinion about European or foreign covers of American music. I really think that they're some of the best utilized pieces of music because it's familiar, but you become more interested in like, oh, are they singing another language? So you've got like I'm assuming it's Russian version of Holding Out for a Hero. I believe there was a Japanese cover for Holding Out for a Hero on there as well. And so much fun. Like, I love those types of songs where it's just like Japanese or foreign covers. What about you? Do you like any of that stuff?
I just like when movies use familiar nostalgic music during heightened parts. This may have been my favorite use of Final Countdown since Rocky.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
When they pumped that in and they're just all singing. I'm like, when did Rocky 4? Was this before or after Rocky 4?
And that was
in the movie time.
That was the real band, Europe. So that was pretty sweet. So they used that actual real song. But I really enjoyed like the Russian and Japanese versions of Holding Out for a Hero. Like, I love when they do that. Or just for the fact that you're exposed to kind of just, that influence that music is across the globe. And regardless of whatever language it is, whatever country, uh, hits are hits, and those songs are bangers no matter what language they're singing in. If the music is there, people can get behind the familiarity of it, and so I'm down with it every step of the way. With all the different types of influences in video games, with everything, did you think that you were going to enjoy a movie about a puzzle game and how the deal went through?
So I'm mixed on this, right? Because I love all of the references to nostalgic things that I enjoy, like Nintendo, but they didn't call it Nintendo. Like, that was the frustrating part, is they Americanized it, because the everything that they played the original game on, and in Japan it was a Famicom, right? Nintendo is what they use in the US, right, for the system. So and that's a super nerdy deep cut, right? Like, I would say 70% of people don't know that. But it was just like, you're not going to talk to the head of Nintendo about a Nintendo. You're going to talk about Famicom, and what are we doing here? But it also was super cool to see them integrate the terrible fashion and the integration of the terrible European cars, even in the chase scenes, was awesome. It definitely gave a very real look at communism, which I'm not nostalgic for. I'm anti-communism. I don't believe in isms. I just believe in me. But in general, there was definitely some cool stuff, and I liked the fact. I mean, like the fact it was a true story, but I'm like, I dug the Japanese influence on a lot of the stuff, just getting to see Japanese life in the 80s.
I was curious about how accurate this was, because all of this just seems super unbelievable. Like, really, this is all stemming from a video game? And did you read up on the fact and fiction about this movie
I
and what
didn't
transpired in real life?
So I didn't read up on the fact and the fiction, but I know that there's more complexity to the licensing because of all of the different versions of the initial game that came out. That being said, it also was the 80s, the wild, wild west of business, where the best you were getting is faxes and letters and shit, right? Like, that part of it was believable to me. And I would bet that there's quite a few business deals that have gone through, on the finger and with all these ridiculous things, because you didn't have as much connectivity and ability to check things as you do now, right? You didn't have, you could not get an immediate bank, like, I can't pull up my bank balance on my phone. You had to go to the bank and they had to look it up for you in their system, right? Like, all these things would be done in a certain way. So I Hollywood has driven me to believe that I'm absolutely sure that some weird ass business deals went down like this, and people were negotiating out of 3 different rooms, and yeah.
So going into like the characters, you got Taron Egerton, who I knew from the Kingsman and the Elton John movie, and rumored to be Wolverine for like the longest time. And I kind of hope that still happens. I just really like him as an actor. What are your thoughts on him, and what did you think of him being Hank, the nerdy but yet determined sales guy and businessman in this movie?
This is one of those actors that it doesn't bother me how many different roles that he's played. I just enjoy him. And like, there's certain actors that I don't see outside of a certain role, but I think that, Taron Egerton is a great talent, and I thought he did a good job in the role. My wife said he gave Leo Wolf of Wall Street vibes in parts of it, and I'm like, I mean, 80s businessman, let's go.
I don't know if he has like the same balls as Leo, as Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street. But yeah, I mean, this guy has confidence to just pack his shit up, go to Russia, and just be like, I'm gonna make a deal with the Russians
with the communists, bro.
Yeah. I wonder, like, was it as crazy as it was to where you can't go into government building without having an appointment? Like, was it that
I
crazy?
mean, ask Brittany Griner, dude. It probably was, and probably still is.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like the different times and how things have changed, but also how many things have stayed the same because you have a lot of leadership that will want to run it their way. But when it comes to video games, really, you're going to hold it that close to the chest and just be like, no, you cannot have our video games. Like, I don't know, man. That's like, it's nuts to me. And so
Well,
I had a hard time believing
they
it, but I
didn't
liked
even
it.
know what video games were. It was the only time that they had like any level of ownership or anything that the West actually wanted. What does the West wanted from Russia before that? Like, can you think? I can't think of one thing that I've been like, I really need this OG Russian thing.
Going back to the movie, yeah, I'm a big fan of Taron Egerton. So if you go from playing a Cockney spy in Kingsman, and then you go to playing Elton John, also he was in Sing and Sing 2. He lent his voice to that. But Eddie the Eagle was another movie that I enjoyed with him and the true Wolverine, Hugh Jackman. I thought that was great. Did you ever check out that flick?
It's on my if I'm bored to watch list, but I've heard good things, and hearing Hugh Jackman talk about how he enjoyed it was probably the best part. I've seen parts of it, like snippets, but not never sat down and fully digested that
It's a
one.
feel good movie, and it's like it's kind of nice to see the nerd triumph or at least have some degree of success. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know anyone else in this movie, so I can't really talk about the other the other actors or actresses in this. But
Yeah, there really wasn't a lot of known people.
did you know like the different names they were throwing out, like for the Nintendo CEO and all these other
No,
people?
no, no, I'm not that guy. I just no. I wish. I know that they have really long Japanese names, and if you've listened to the podcast for 5 minutes, you know that I struggle with non-Midwestern last names. So I can only imagine what I would do to like a Yamanura or a Magamoto or whatever the hell.
I was
Like
gonna say
I'm just
that
being respectful by abstaining.
that's kind of a stretch. You should have just said you have trouble with names, not
Yeah, I
necessarily
do. I
outside
do.
of Midwestern names.
I usually am okay unless it's super East Coast. Driving through Massachusetts, I'm screwed.
Um, what are you feeling like in this movie as you're going through, like when he goes through to he's talking to his wife and saying he's gonna land this huge ass account. When he goes out to Russia to really like go play hardball, are you interested? Are you invested? Are you like not caring what's going on? Talk me through it.
In my head, I'm like, man, these opportunities just aren't out there anymore because huge corporations like Disney learned, oh, we should just buy IP. That's what we're gonna buy. So they bought like Lucas and all these game companies of the past and all of these other products. Like basically everything in your background is IP that's owned by Disney and on your head. And they got smart about that. But this was like one of the first IP purchases, right? One of the first licensing deals for something that's huge because I mean there wasn't that much then. And if you heard about it, right, there was only like 4 burgeoning categories that people didn't even know. This was the first handheld category. Like they did Game and watches and stuff like that, which were like the Tiger handhelds of the day, which you probably had some Tiger handhelds. Don't act like you didn't.
Cue the sad music. I did not have any of those, but you can for sure bet that whenever I was with like a cousin or a friend or
You were rocking
anyone
their
who
Tiger
had them,
handheld.
yeah, I was like, hey, could I try it out? And I was so happy when I did try it out. But yeah, never had them. And sad music.
Well, I didn't have them either. I had a Game Boy. That
Oh
was it.
no. Oh,
I
just the
know.
Game Boy.
I was upgraded.
Okay. So
You
you
can, you
don't
can
care.
switch that.
You're not invested in what's going on in the movie.
Oh, I'm invested. I'm like, but I'm thinking, man, you can't do this anymore. I don't think, because there's opportunities to self-publish so much now and all that. But I can't think of an underground game that's not immediately snapped up by somebody bigger.
Yeah.
Damn corporations and all their money.
So let me rephrase the question. What are you having a good time watching the movie?
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Okay.
going for the journey. I wanted to hear the story. I wanted to see how they beat the son of Harry Potter's fat uncle. Right.
I was like not really sure what was going on. I was super interested, intrigued, and curious as to what was going on. My wife also. So before this movie started, earlier in the day, she didn't literally drag us to go see Barbie, but we did a family movie on a Sunday, and we watched the Barbie movie, which maybe not. We'll review later on down the road. Listeners, if you want us to, go
Comments.
ahead and comment. Absolutely. But after that, I was just like, hey, do you want to see Tetris tonight? And she's like, okay. And so she posted like an Instagram story saying, because I or because she made us watch Barbie, this was her punishment. And it wasn't, no, I don't think it was a punishment. I just thought it looked like a good movie. And so she was caught by surprise. She was like really into it. And I was like, oh my God, like how much worse could it get for this American businessman after getting threatened by the KGB, after being told multiple times, and just like the whole way that the business is being handled is so goddamn piss poor. And if it happened today to me, I'd be like, fuck this, I'm out of here. But he had all his eggs in this basket and he needed to get those handheld right. So he stuck to it. But yeah, super interested. I'm invested. I want to know what's going to happen. I'm curious if anyone's going to die, because I don't know how closely they're following this story. And not that I knew the Tetris story to begin with, because who the fuck cares about how Tetris came about and the rights happened anyways, right? So it's all about that adventure, and there's plenty of adventure that's going on in this, and a lot of ups and downs.
I
But
will say
what,
I was surprised when I opened it up on Apple to start it, and it was like Thriller, and I was like, Thriller?
yeah, right.
Is Michael Jackson in this? I don't know what did I miss? What did I miss?
That would have been key, right? You could have had some like Russian or Japanese Michael Jackson covers, and that
That's the
couldn't
one
play.
thing you didn't see. No zipper jackets. No shiny gloves.
Yeah, it's a thriller. Thriller's an interesting word, but I would say that is absolutely, it was a thrilling movie. There are some points of intrigue that are just like, oh, where do we go from here, and how does he get out of this, and are they going to kill him, and oh my God, they're in a car chase. There's a lot of shady stuff that happens with around the Cold War area. This really gave off the vibe of the TV show The Americans on FX, if anyone's ever watched that. Have you checked that out before?
No, not a big, not big into the Russian conspiracy move shows.
It's pretty awesome. It was probably one of my top 5 TV shows of all time. Very good series. Hooked me right from the beginning and kept me interested all the way throughout. And I like spy stuff. If you like spy stuff, check it out. I don't think we'll ever do an episode on this unless someone wants to commission an episode for the Resident Jedi to watch them all, and for me to watch it all
We can be
again.
bought
But
cheap.
yeah, I mean, why not? For anyone who wants to participate, we want to participate with you. And maybe if you commission an episode, we'll even have you on as a guest. How about that? But Russia, the Cold War, video games. Does it mix? Not really, but I guess it does. So we go on this adventure with them. But what else are you thinking as the business deals are, Hank, Taron Egerton's character, has some ups and downs. He has a translator who turns out to be a KGB agent. Uh, what are you thinking towards the end of this movie? And did you already know what the rights battle was and who won and who prevailed prior to watching the movie?
No, I knew it ended up on Game Boy. Like I knew that it got there. And I never heard of Maxwell, so I'm assuming that he didn't win.
It's
Right. And you're not
Mr.
going to make a
Maxwell.
movie unless the little guy wins. But I did think it was interesting, to your point, the negotiation tactics. The Russian negotiation tactics were so Japanese in the way that they like made them wait and put all these things, and it was very interesting to see the espionage behind the scenes, to your point. Like, there's, I'm supposed to make the best deal for the country, for the betterment of the people, but really I'm just the KGB. So nobody expects the KGB.
I wonder if like everyone was just KGB back in the day in Russia. Like you talk to the guy who's selling ice cream, or like, their version of ice cream on the street, and it's like, yep, it's a KGB agent. He's gonna fuck you later on.
I mean, it's like the mafia in New Jersey. It's the same thing. Everybody's part of it.
We talked about a little bit of the plot and everything. So once it comes down to the final negotiation where, Hank Taron Egerton's character has some, inside information, and then you see like the KGB and the government kind of turning on each other. I thought that was super interesting, and it made it even more anxious, in my opinion, because I was like, okay, is this gonna end up in like a shootout? Is there a shootout in Tetris? Because it seems like someone's gonna get shot, because everyone's, trying to dick measure and say that they're doing it for the country, but also get a little piece for themselves. And then you have the American businessmen that are coming in saying like, I'm gonna pay you off, let's just get this deal done. And then they don't have the money. And then you've got the ballsy, broke American businessmen going in, wanting to do the right thing for Alexei, who's the one who originally developed the game. Someone slated to die, right? I mean, am I the only one that thought that like someone was going to die, or was supposed to, by typical Hollywood formula, someone was supposed to die?
Yeah, I thought that the Alexei guy was going to get like whacked or whatever. I definitely thought that they were going to whack Alexei. They had the ominous, I'm going to throw your kids from this 80s style broken out window, useless sky bridge.
Yeah.
And we're randomly throwing shit out of it, not hitting anybody.
Yeah, right. Like, isn't that it's threatening, but I'm just thinking like the kids aren't going to be like, why are you throwing our chair?
Yeah.
I'd like to sit on chair.
Daddy, I like that chair.
Where do I sit and have dinner, Daddy? No.
Where
It's
do
like,
I eat
but
my
no.
borscht?
In that case, it's just like, Daddy, learning about gravity. Everything falls at the same time.
It's like communism. Everything's equal, Daddy.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no one dies, right? I don't think anyone dies.
No, and then everybody goes to San Francisco and lives together, and they have male hugs.
Male hugs as opposed to female hugs? Or
When he's like, now can I show emotion?
I thought that was cool. So I thought that was you want there to be a good guy in this movie. And I don't know how true this is to real life. I read a little bit of some facts and fiction, but it seemed like the friendship between Hank and Alexei was legit, because he did end up moving to Seattle and they both partnered up and everything. And I thought that was like a feel good thing. You like feel good stories. So are you not feeling good about this bromance?
No, I like that nobody died. And they got to go to SFO and hang out. I dug that he sent him a Game Boy. I was like, yeah.
I was wondering about that. So Hank sends him a Game Boy. I'm wondering if Alexei was just like that American motherfucker,
the son of a bitch,
profiting off of my blood, sweat, and tears. And now he sends me this game, and he doesn't even send me the cartridge either, just the Game Boy.
The original one came with the cartridge.
Oh, did it? See, that's 100% proof.
You poor child.
Cue the sad music. There we go. All right.
Do. You use the sad music from the end of Tetris.
Yeah, the game over music. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's funny. But yeah, like that actual story, and when they go out to party, right? That was kind of cool, where he goes out and shows him a good time in Russia. I thought for sure Hank, that nerdy businessman, was gonna pick up some Russian hookers. I thought that's what it was. Because doesn't that
No,
always
no,
happen?
because when the KGB skank tried to kiss him, he was like, I'm married.
Yeah.
The one thing I did like about this movie is they broke away from the story to tell, like, to give human moments, right?
Mm,
Like the family thing and him worrying about his dad and them going to the weird Russian club and the abandoned school because they don't teach people there anymore. They just work in agriculture with the sickle. They talked about his wife holding things together and the way his kids reacted to him being away and missing their fancy Japanese dance, and then him taking the time to be reinvested in his kids. Like they tell it they make Taron Egerton out to be a good person, even with
yeah.
him informing the Russians like you're getting like him fixing their contracts. Um, so yeah, I liked those moments that you're talking about in the movie that humanized the people. It wasn't just, yep, we did a thing and then we did another thing. That's, I think, one of the things that Air was missing is it didn't give you enough background about everybody. It gave you Matt Damon background, but like
A
Chris Tucker's
degenerate
character,
gambler. That's
yeah,
all he was
yeah,
a
but
degenerate
like Chris
gambler.
Tucker's character was only there, like, to glad hand the Jordans, right? Like
Yeah.
there's so much Phil Knight stuff they could have done with Affleck and they didn't do it, right? Like that guy is super interesting. But I like that they at least gave you more of the human element in this movie, which I think is a win.
But I think that's also an interesting thing. So you bring up Air, and I don't know if this is Affleck's intent or just because they wanted to just be, growing the mystique around Michael Jordan, is how often are American businessmen ever painted in a positive light? Like there's always some type of vice, some type of awful behavior or argument or something that will trigger them to be unlikable, or at least, cast a shadow of a doubt where it's like, I don't know if I necessarily want to be friends with that guy.
Well,
Taron
nobody
Egerton's character, you kind of get that vibe off of that, is, he's not a great guy, but then it unfolds and you throw in the stuff about the daughter and the wife, and it's almost I've read some articles and reviews on it saying that was like unnecessary, that they didn't need to do that. It's like, oh, you had to put in some lovey-dovey shit in there for the movie. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, to where it's like, I thought it makes him a well-rounded, likable character. And we can kind of separate that fiction from fact, whether if that was really the case. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I thought it was necessary for the storytelling.
I agree. I think that to your point about negativity in donning business people, who wants to watch a movie about the honest businessman who coaches little league and takes his kid out for ice cream? There's no conflict there. There's no hero's journey. It's just boring. Like I could go back and watch Leave It to Beaver if that's what I want to see. Like, and I don't, because I don't. I want to see conflict. I want to see drama. And that's why you got to accentuate the the more interesting traits of some of these people.
I was hoping Hank was going to go full Bert Kreischer in this movie and just start really showing the Russians a good time. Like, this is how we do it in Tokyo. And he just starts like snorting coke off of Russian hookers' asses and stuff like that. Like, I was hoping for something like that, but yeah, they went the complete opposite way, which I still enjoyed. But yeah, I thought lost opportunity. Lost opportunity.
You know what surprised me in this movie is the amount of brown liquor they were drinking.
Was it like bourbon or whatever it was?
Well, right, because that craze didn't come to Tokyo until like the late 80s, 90s, right? Like it wasn't this huge thing. They were drinking like sake and stuff
Well,
like
that was late 80s.
yeah, I know, but it was, I don't know, it was very cash. And I believe they were drinking brown liquor in Russia, which also is not a thing. You don't hear about Russian whiskey.
True. True. I don't know. Maybe the KGB brought in the good stuff. I don't know. Good point. Good point. I'm
They
not
had
a
their
drinker,
machine
so
vodka. Is that what they had?
just yeah, everything. Just the potato vodka in the dirty bottle that someone's grandmother made because that's the only thing they had abundance of were potatoes somewhere.
And dirty bathtubs.
Exactly. All right, so we're the car chase. I want to talk about the car chase. Um, would you say it's better than the Mission Impossible 7 car chase?
Um, it's not better, but it's better than the machine.
Where there's a
I
car chase
felt
in the movie?
well, I felt like the chase in the machine and then that ending scene where he was magically a ninja was a little off for me. And this at least seemed realistic. Like if that's your car, you could drive it that way. You know,
I
your little Russian shitbox.
I liked that even in the car chase, there were elements of Tetris in there.
Yeah.
And he's like just keep going. We'll fit, trust me. And it's like it kind of video games it up. You hear the little bit of video game music as he drives past, which is certain death, right? Certain death between a brick wall and like a garbage truck, and he's able to squeeze through. And I just thought it was like those little quips of genius were awesome to me, and it made the car chase fun. But at the same time, you're thinking like the KGB, once they catch them, they're gonna fuck them up. Like someone's gonna die.
The one thing about this movie that made no senses to me is the complete lack of exhaustion of bullets. Like, there's no way they're not driving and shooting at them.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe
it's fucking Russia.
I don't know.
That's
I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, I don't know if Russia is just like what the Rambo movies painted out to be, where they're just like an unlimited amount. Like everyone has infinite ammo in Russia. I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure the KGB doesn't have like bullet belts to put into their small little tiny
with bandoliers.
Yeah, I don't think they have those bandoliers for their DB7s or whatever they were fucking shooting back in the day.
Kalashnikovs, man.
Yeah. Well, that was
Remember,
I don't know if the KGB would necessarily have those, but whatever their small revolvers were, they're Russian issued revolvers.
Well, they all see that's another thing. They all had like automatic handguns.
Yeah. 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 And what did the guys have? Nothing. They didn't have anything.
No, they were tourists.
Yeah. All right. So, any other thoughts about the car chase?
No, I liked it. I thought the music really made it awesome, right? Going into the little bit of a 8-bit feel to it and just bringing it all together.
Do you have any personal anecdotes that involve Tetris or that particular or like stories stemming from that game? You know, sleepovers with friends or just Game Boys, like plugging into someone else's Game Boy and going head to head against Tetris.
That's one thing I never did. I never did the head-to-head Game Boy stuff.
You never docked with another guy, and
no docking, no docking coming on over here.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
That was a no hole for me. Okay. But I feel like we played Tetris based on high score, just like OG arcade games back in the day. Like it was all on what score you could get, what level you could get to. And of course it got super competitive. And then spawned the sequel to Tetris Attack, which is all about scoring large amounts of points and dropping it's like battle Tetris. So Tetris Attack is really where my competitive Tetris time comes in. My wife, it is the video game that she's best at.
I didn't even know that there was a difference. I thought, just based off of what you're saying, didn't they just have that on regular Nintendo for Tetris? Like you go to head, and if you get a Tetris, the other person gets fucked.
No, it was the original Tetris was all based on points. Tetris Attack integrated the obstacle idea. of making it harder on the other person as opposed to you having the same hardness level. Yes. Yes.
When you say obstacles, like, what do you mean?
Like an extra chunk of blocks would drop down, and yeah, you'd add to it. You gotta play it,
Uh,
dude.
I mean, I'll bet you right now that Tetris on the regular Nintendo, if you played a two-player game, if you got a Tetris, there would be additional blocks that would pop up.
I've never I played it very. I honestly have a Tetris cart for NES right now, but I don't play that one two player. I play Tetris Attack and Dr. Mario two player. Those are
Okay.
my two player puzzle game jams.
Interesting.
If they make a Dr. Mario movie, that would be awesome.
Good God.
The third brother.
Help me if there's a Dr. Mario movie, because I just don't know how Nintendo can bounce back from something like, the Jack Black song of Peaches.
The soon to be Oscar nominated Jack Black song.
Yeah, I don't know.
Guaranteed that's on the Oscar nom list.
It's
and
too
don't
bad.
Complain about Peaches, bro.
No, I'm not complaining about that. I'm saying that there's how can you top that? And like, oh, Dr. Mario with Chris Pratt as Dr. Mario,
No,
like,
it will be a different person. He's a different brother.
What?
Yeah.
That's not the same Mario?
No, not the same Mario.
Get the
That's
fuck
why the
out
Mario
of here.
dad was so disappointed in Mario. Why can't you be a doctor like your brother?
Oh, I thought that was just the same Mario.
That's a controversial hot take, but there's rumors.
Oh,
that's a different person.
Okay.
It's a different playable character in a couple games like Smash Brothers. So I don't know if Nintendo has confirmed or denied, but I'm based on the fatherly disappointment from the Italian father. I'm going to go with he's got a brother who's a doctor.
I didn't even catch that. So maybe, okay, then I would be interested in that, but yeah.
Solely for I like how you're like, oh, there's family conflict. I'll watch that.
Yeah, absolutely I would. But yeah, if it's not Chris Pratt I just don't buy Chris Pratt as a doctor. So that's like what do you do? It's like, yeah, this whole plumbing thing isn't working out for me, so I'm going to be a doctor instead. Like, that just doesn't fucking work. That's not real life. If anything, it works in the complete opposite direction, But
doctors start being plumbers.
Yeah, right. Like, no way, no fucking way.
Heart surgery and plumbing, same.
Yeah,
same
it's more
principles.
likely. It's more likely for that to happen than this plumbing thing isn't working out. I think I might just fall back and just be a doctor. Like, no, sorry, that doesn't work that way, buddy.
Well, I think that that depends.
Depends on a complete fiction. That's what it depends on.
It'd be a great movie.
But speaking of great movies, any other closing thoughts on Tetris before we ask that pivotal question?
I really don't. Other than I was happy to see the cast of this movie, and with the cast and with the storyline that they chose to tell and the way they chose to tell it, I was pleasantly surprised. Put it that way.
Well, pleasantly surprised doesn't necessarily constitute the answer what I'm looking for. But Mark, in regards to Tetris, can you do this movie all day?
While I was pleasantly surprised and enjoyed the movie, not a bunch of rewatchability for me. Not a movie that I'm going to go back to the well on a bunch. Something I'm glad I watched. Would not complain if somebody's like, oh, I want to watch this. Okay, I liked that. We could watch it, but not something I'm hunting down to rewatch. So while I cannot do this all day, I do give the movie a positive ranking, a positive ranking, whatever.
Fair enough.
But my thoughts aren't the only ones in this conversation that matter. So, Danny, can you do this movie all day?
Breaking it down by my personal algorithm of nostalgia, absolutely, it does have the nostalgia factor in it. You've got the Tetris music, the 8-bit graphics, along with 8-bit sound in the movie throughout. So that's a nice positive. You also have that use of popular music by foreign covers, or maybe not so foreign if you're Russian or Japanese, but I really dug the music in this. And this was a movie that was advertised and labeled as a thriller. And I was pretty skeptical. When I saw that, I was like, I don't know about thrilling. But after watching it, absolutely. I was pretty thrilled by it. And Taron Egerton, honestly, I don't know if he can do any wrong. Unless he comes out with like a sex scandal, domestic abuse scandal, or something. Like, I'll watch every movie that he's in. And with him being the Hollywood name in this, and not many Hollywood names in this. I mean, contrary to my belief of it doesn't have to be all big Hollywood names, but this was a movie that was well executed with few Hollywood names, a lot of talent, very intriguing story, feel good plot and character development. So yeah, I can do this all day. And from a watchability or rewatchability point of view, I will rewatch this for the music, for the other plot points that I did not necessarily pick up in. And I'm good with this. So yeah, I can do this all day.
Wow. I'm taken aback in shock, but I'm glad you found a movie to add to your rewatch list and a reason for you to keep your Apple subscription going and loving it. I am sad that there's only one more like Taron Egerton movie even in the hopper that's in post-production this year, so we may not see him back into anything for a minute, but
that's okay, because if they tap him on the shoulder to play anything in the MCU or maybe as Wolverine, I'm down for it. That guy's got acting range and he could get himself jacked too. So
yeah, we won't see that movie until 2026.
That's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. We'll see before then Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So it'd be kind of a nice passing of the torch if Eddie the Eagle actually took over the mantle.
I don't know when we're going to see that Deadpool movie with this strike going on. They stopped production.
Let's think positively, because we hope that people get paid. As long as our ticket prices don't necessarily astronomically rise or our subscriptions astronomically rise, which they will. Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see. We hope everyone gets paid fairly. But at the same time, us as consumers, I hope we're also treated fairly as well.
Yes, we are all for fair pay and equal treatment here at the I Can Do This All Day podcast. We are also here for you to like, subscribe, and comment. And before we send everything off, I want to ask for some specific recommendations, because we're going to be doing another round of retro rewinds coming up over the next few months. And while we have some picks that we are excited to get to, man, we want to hear from y'all. We want to know what movies that you watch repeatedly, whether they're terrible 80s movies, whether they're some more recent things that maybe we haven't given too much credence to. We are open and excited, and we're also looking for opportunities for watch-alongs. So if you liked them and you want to see our reactions in real time to your recommendations, comment, send us a DM on Instagram, hit us up on X, whatever you got to do.
Also, I'm going to open up the email for the listeners and watchers. I can do this all day podcast at gmail.com. Take a look at your screen right now if you're watching the video, and we will be able to share a little bit of your video clip if you would like to submit it to us, and we'll put it into the next episode. But until then, this is Dan the Part-Time Adventurer. That's Mark the Resident Chef.
Go for it.